Thank you everybody for joining us. This is the Magic Bricks Real Estate Dialogues. We've restarted this after a long time. There was a lull in the market, and we felt that now we see a bounce back in the market in many segments, and therefore we picked up one that is in demand right now, the affordable housing segment. What is the segment? Who's building? Is it viable for the private sector to build in this? There are policy changes. Do these policy changes help? And if there are any more changes that are required, maybe through a process of dialogue, we can arrive at them. All the outcomes of this dialogue, we've had one in Delhi, this is Mumbai, and we go on to Bangalore very shortly. And all the recommendations go back to the ministry so that at some point there are interventions possible. So let's get the dialogue moving. Firstly, affordable housing. Ramesh, have we identified affordable housing segments correctly? Is it possible for anybody to figure out what is that affordable housing segment that we are dealing with?
I think if you look at the overall demand pie, it's kind of quite infinite in India if you give the right definition of affordable housing. Recently, a consultancy firm had spoken about the overall demand being 10 million units a year. A year, that's 10 million, a crore of units a year, which is 3.5 million of it just coming out of population growth. Indian population is growing every year at around 1.2%. Around 2.5 out of that coming out of nuclearization, big families becoming smaller families, and around 4 million coming from aspiration, people in smaller housing wanting to go to bigger housing, or people in slums wanting to upgrade, or so that's how the 10 million thing is. But I was recently speaking at one of these seminars, real estate conferences, and there were like 250 odd developers in the audience. So I asked, how many of you actually develop products less than 20 lakh rupees? For this discussion, maybe we can take the definition of affordable housing as something like 15-20 lakhs. And out of the 250 odd developers in the audience, around less than 5 people actually put up their hands. And this was not a Bombay conference. So that just shows that we've been talking about it a lot, but the wider developer community as such, I think Deepak ji can maybe address it more, is just not started creating enough products for that sector. We need to realize that overall just 2 to 3% of the population in the country actually earn more than 5 lakh rupees a year. And this is the household income. So not too many. And we're just making homes for that 2%, 3% of the population. There's so much of others which can be catered to, and there's a lot of examples globally which we can learn from. But as a thumb rule, I think a 1.5 to 2 crores per acre is something what we should look at. Today, at least a few developers have started thinking in terms of creating separate affordable housing arms. I think that's the way forward. Everybody, all the top developers have an opportunity to create a separate affordable housing arm, which needs to think very different from their core business opportunity, which is thinking low margin, low cost, high volume game.
So we've got Deepak Goradia from the MCHI. Ramesh set the tone when he said that you have to build it differently, conceive it differently, and market it differently. Help us understand how the MCHI is handling this.
Within MCHI, we have definitely been looking affordable housing as one of the business segment which independent vertical we can say in each of the organization. And the mindset of the people who are doing the regular housing has to be little totally different in affordable housing. So that is the reason, as Ramesh also said, that we have to not the volume and the margins, but overall to give better to the society at the reasonable price. And the thing is, affordable housing as such, it's a very relative term. So in the sense, area to area, location to location, affordable housing definition varies. And if we are to look at Mumbai and MMR area, if we leave aside the Mumbai city and suburban area, the affordable housing in MMR area, there are a number of pockets where one developers have been looking aggressively, actively into working for the affordable housing on a private land. Affordable housing can be possible on private land, can be possible on a government land also with private partnership. Government of Maharashtra has recently come out with a scheme for the on the public land also, where government of Maharashtra is willing to work with a private developer for developing housing stock by affordable housing. Lot of policy changes are happening where we are in MCHA, we are definitely anxiously looking forward to make it viable and make it successful. We recently even signed a MOU with the government of Maharashtra for around total 9 lakh houses will be proposing to provide. That affordable houses are at different sector in different cities. Maybe in Thana, within Thana city could be a definition of affordable housing is different, or Mira Bhayandra could be different, and in MMR area could be different, Kalyan, and maybe in a Karjat, Kasara area would be different. The thing is, it is a opportunity for the developer to explore with a little of social mind definitely, and work where we need to do not only the land point of view, along with that construction point of view also a lot of value engineering to make it within the purview where customer can afford. The definition of affordable housing by Prime Minister and then Urban Development Department point of view, and PMAY and the PMAI, the incentive and what they income level they have defined from 12 lakhs annual income of family to 15 lakhs or up to 18 lakhs. In that, the pricing, it is a challenge to achieve that numbers, and we definitely are looking at it to work with the first is a control on the land cost. Land has to be reasonably priced or maybe a private partnership, and second is the construction cost. Other things are definitely there, we can discuss later.
Uh, Rajan, we were talking about what is affordable housing and how does it break up for the developer? The cost of land, the cost of the structure, and the marketing cost. And does it become viable? Are you able to make it a profitable venture?
See, today the mantra is affordable housing because today it only affordable only sells. The market, whatever the demands are there, the way Ramesh told, there are very few families or few people who are earning more than 5 lakhs a year in India. So, to be very precise, for them all the houses are built, and unfortunately, we all developers used to build for only those little percentage of the people who are earning good.
Clearly, that was profitable, and you were a commercial entity. That's why you built for in that segment. What has brought it into the affordable segment? That building activity, what has brought it into the affordable segment?
See, one is that the government is very positive. See, at government level, government is trying, government is trying to do many things. They are coming up with various schemes. We can approach the government. The most important thing, I will tell you, the past government and this government is that government is listening to us. Government is having dialogue with us. Till past, the earlier government, they were thinking that developers means they would not like to meet us in the daytime. To be very honest, this is a very very big sea change what we are facing. And one more thing is that the RERA has also come. So the developers who were fly by night operator developers or the developers who didn't have revenue, they are going to vanish. So only serious developers, corporate sector are going to be there in the industry. Now coming to affordable, yeah, government is doing too much, but they are not doing the right. I will tell you very honestly, government is giving so many facilities, incentives. Instead of that, if the government reduces,
1 minute, I think there's a problem with the mic.
Yes, the mic is on.
The mic is not on.
Let's press it from on.
it is very positive. But what government is doing, government is giving various schemes, various incentives. Instead of this, the government should see on the land prices. See, in our component, the biggest thing is land prices. Construction, if you see, you construct anywhere, the prices are not much more different. The construction varies from 5 to 10% in the cost, depending on your high rise. If the high rise is there, it's a different cost. Otherwise, if you construct from 4 to 7 stories, the cost is not much. The cost is similar wherever you build in Chennai or build in Mumbai or Nashik or Nagpur, wherever it is. The cost is almost similar. So the basic is that one is land cost and second is very very important and crucial thing are taxes and premiums. Today, if we tell a house worth 50 lakhs rupees is there, minimum amount 15 to 18 lakhs goes to government. So if you really see 30 to 75% of the chain goes to the government as taxes, as well as premiums. So this is very big amount. If the government really feels, government can come up with an affordable scheme and they can give them directly. There are no taxes or no premiums for this. When you build such type of houses, so automatically the supply would be more, the prices would be controlled automatically. And earlier there are so many zones are there. So people, if you build affordable, now the government has started. You can build affordable in green zone also, as well as in no development zone. The government is coming up with various schemes. So 100% in the coming years, you will see a sea change in affordable segment. And affordable would be a reality for common man.
We'll come back to this point of land prices, but I think we'll get everybody involved in the discussion. We're talking about HDFC, we're talking about CLSS driving the real estate markets. And today, the affordable housing, from our understanding, the CLSS has been the single biggest trigger for the offtake of affordable housing. So, Sanjay, tell us, what is it that you have noticed in terms of the dispersal, the volumes, the take up in the market, and the component of affordable in your total lending structure?
See, if you look at the four verticals under which the PMI is working, and our role is only on the PMI CLSS. Now, frankly, if you ask me, we are very happy on the scheme for the simple reason we never expected government to be so cooperative. On a lighter note, really has worked with the last year only, though started in 2015, but really it took off slowly in the beginning. But we are seeing huge pipeline, both in terms of what is pending with us and how people are approaching. Now, why I say we are happy, because really government is supporting all these suggestions which we are giving, because when they launched the scheme, probably they were also not very sure how it will work out, and we were not sure. But when we really went, actually practically worked on the scheme, and we told them these are the minor changes you need to do it. Really, if you look at all this MIG or increase in area or women ownership not to be included in the higher segment was probably part of the suggestion, and they are really taking positively and they are making changes, right? Though PMI, the CLSS is a smaller portion out of the total PMI, but it is the only one which is visible. Why it is visible? Because it is actually, you are seeing the money coming directly in the hand of the people. Builders are happy only to the extent that yes, it is helping them to market their project. As far as numbers are concerned, though in the beginning first year was not too good, last year has been extremely good. Our share is substantially higher compared to other institutions. Probably we may be number one, and we nearly contribute about 18-20% of the total funding which they have done it. And you will not believe, on the last day they were so active. On the last 4 days of the month, they nearly disbursed about 300 crores, just to ensure that people get the money within the same financial year. So it is working. I think the coming 2 years will be very, very busy. Number one, the PMI MIG, which is going to close now March 19 as per the initial one. And I think people will need it, because people were not sure whether they'll get the money. So since money is coming, it will help MIG section. Anyway, EWS and LIG is extending till 2022. So we are hopeful, and for us, for the first 9 months till December, because we are seeing, as he is saying, 50,000 rupees, and government is also classifying eligible for 37% of our numbers are earning less than 50,000 rupees. 13,000 loans per month we are approving, about close to about 8,000 crores. So that's the demand, and it's growing. It's growing month on month. So we are pretty hopeful, and I think CLSS will play a key role. Will play a key role.
Rohit, you guys have been building in the affordable segment. What makes a housing unit affordable? Is it the specifications? Is it the location where land is cheaper, or is it the speed of construction, so that all the volumes, you have a larger number of units in one location, so that you're able to get the economies of scale? What makes housing affordable?
So, I think it starts off, like Rajan sir said, with the land price. If you're looking at a combined household income of, say, 6 lakh rupees a year, that means that 30 lakh rupees is the outside limit of the price at which the customer can buy. Under that scheme, 90% financing is part of the cost now. So, looking at, typically speaking, the customer paying 3 lakh rupees and the rest coming as EMIs over 20-25 years. So the crucial, I mean, there are different pots of course in the value creation segment, but the significant driver will basically be land with infrastructure. Very often you see people buying land at a cheap price, at 100 rupees, 200 rupees a square foot, but there's nothing there from an infrastructure perspective. So the developers end up paying more money on the infra cost as opposed to the land price. So the government's serious about affordable housing, which I think they now are. I think water has become a really big issue as a supply source for affordable housing. I think the creation of a lot of water supply will be key for the future. We actually see from our location perspective also the availability of water being the single largest factor to say whether we can go or no go or go. So water recycling is of course a subsequent matter, but most municipalities and even irrigation department, for example, are stressed for water. So large townships, even under the PMAY scheme, you won't get environmental clearance unless you have a clear water supply. So my concern is going to be, other than the land price and the construction price, and making it an ecosystem which is habitable and livable for the school and hospital if it's large enough size. But water supply is going to be the key factor of supply coming up. Under the new scheme of PMAY, you have more FSI available now. Green zone has become 1 FSI, R zone has become 2.5. You'll see people making more high-rise buildings, especially in the R zone. So your construction costs will go up. But Rajan sir was saying G+4, G+7 to consume 2.5 FSI, especially with the inch-by-3 rule. It's height divided by 3 on all 4 sides as the planning part. It's very difficult to consume the FSI at less than 21, 22 floors, which is right below the 70-meter mark. Their construction costs also go up. And also the kind of clients that want to come and live in a high-rise building, they get worried about costs of monthly maintenance. So the costs almost double. To compare a G+3 or a G+4 or G+7 building with a G+21 or a G+21, your maintenance costs become from 1.5 rupees to 3 rupees. So the question also becomes then what segment of the market is willing to mentally spend 3 rupees a month on maintenance cost. So if we take even 500 square feet as an average size of apartment, looking at 1,500 rupees a month, which is significantly more than they paid in their entire life for monthly maintenance. So these factors are basically the key to actually making affordable housing development viable. I agree with Rajan sir's view completely. That is now a game for the corporates. I think it'll be increasingly difficult for, first of all, standalone buildings aren't selling anywhere. People always want amenities or a layout, what they call a layout or a township. Now, making a township of 25, 50, 100 acres, infrastructure cost investment upfront becomes so significant that the cost of capital becomes key. And having liquidity in your balance sheet, and also you can raise debt from the likes of HDFC and so on and so forth, that becomes key. So I think small and medium-term developers will have a difficult time in affordable housing for the future. So I think to answer your question in a very simple fashion, first is your cost of capital, your access to capital. Second, your cost of land and the infrastructure that comes with the land, which in my opinion primarily water is a significant point. Podar luckily has his own schools and hospitals, so our sites have a natural demand level because we've had a school and hospital brand for over 100 years. But other developers don't have a school and hospital brand, so then you have to put those in. So either they're available in a location, and the moment you have social infrastructure in a location, the land prices are expensive. And then you've got basically the whole concept of constructing a house using maybe aluminum shuttering. We moved completely to alu foam now because we are seeing. I think you can ask Dosti sir also. He'll tell you that sand has become a significant constraint also for constructing, and sand with low silt, and the availability of that quality of sand throughout the year. And now with a 5-year warranty with RERA, I think you'll have more and more people moving to alu foam. So I was one of the few people that adopted it a long time ago. But even affordable housing developers like us now have moved to 100% alu foam. And the last is basically the component of being able to manage the site and create a living environment. That's good. Dosti does it very well, Nirandani does it better than anybody else. But the costs of maintenance are quite expensive. So the question becomes, how do you have maintenance costs compressed as much as possible as well? And there lies the experience of basically building a township. So I think once you build a few and make a lot of mistakes, then you learn by experience.
I hope not. Keep the two things that he picked up. One is infrastructure, and the second is the cost of maintenance. Both very critical factors when we come to affordable housing, because already they are on a, they are under stress. When they're buying a house, that segment is already under stress. And he talked about social infrastructure. I'd like you to also address the fact of connectivity. We've seen that, I'll use Magic with statistics to point out that the MMR region is the largest bank of affordable housing in the country today in terms of volume and in terms of demand. And we've been studying the back end data to figure this out. Nowhere else in the country have you been able to do it. One, there was a lot of availability of land, reasonably cheaper than the parent city. And the second was that there was this huge unmet demand, and you were able to do that. The third thing is infrastructure that was about 10, 12 years late, which when the infrastructure came, somewhere you found that those areas became livable and the take up went up. So I'd like you to address the fact of infrastructure and also the maintenance. How do you address those?
Understand. We come mainly from the investment perspective.
Yes.
So we've been investing in the housing development. I'll just speak from some of the examples of our own investments. If we look at a project much further out in the city, say for example, culture, right? So we look at larger townships because you don't really have schools and hospitals like Rohit was mentioning. So you need larger townships. You need to have something for these people to do once they're back in their house. At the same time, we do have smaller projects. Let's say Keshanagar in Pune. It's a self-sufficient. It's a suburb. It's well developed, so you don't really need it. So you can even build a 5-acre project. So depending on the location, we will have to decide on the size and what amenities to provide. In terms of maintenance, there are a few innovations our developers are doing. For example, there's a project in Coimbatore. It's called Namaviru. So there we have looked at the cost of ownership right from construction to the total maintenance stage itself, right? So there the developer is providing a 200 watt solar supply to every house, and it's a fully furnished house. You've gotten rid of walls because end of the day they can only pay about 10 lakhs. So you have to do what is the best you can provide in 10 lakhs. So they've gotten rid of walls. There are no walls in the house. Every wall is a furniture. In the kitchen it opens as shelves. In the bedroom it becomes your wardrobes, a storage area. And they did a lot of research. They worked with Indian Institute of Science. They're using something called as boulder concrete. So now this is nothing. This is just like how this building is built, right? It's built with stone. It's much cooler compared to the glass structures we have outside. But they've just gone a step ahead. They've tried to do a little bit of prefab in that, because if you can't lay stone by stone, so it's a 3 feet by 4 feet kind of a slab that gets laid and then gets assembled. Not only is it environmentally friendly, it's cheaper because boulders are available as almost in like by the weight, right? So that's what they're doing. So in terms of maintenance, that's how we are seeing. What is the lowest to maintain has to be decided at time of construction, right? You use naturally available material. You train those guys to build it. It's locally made, things like that. And and these are typically ground plus 3 buildings with lift. So yes, one of the these guys actually studied about 300 people before coming out with the design. So maintenance was a question that did come up because typically they're willing to pay about 500 rupees per month as maintenance. Even when I myself did some research here in Dharavi slums. So they said anything above 500 becomes questionable. How do you convince them to pay more than 500?
So then you need probably a sink, which will.
Yes, a sinking fund. Yes, you're right. So,
Also, yes.
May I just add one more thing?
Yeah.
So, on the infrastructure point of view in MMRDA, so let's say, they're more experienced than me. I'm just giving you my 2 bits. Say land is worth X rupees a square foot and we consider it cheap. Why is that? Because the train services there are poor and there's no infrastructure there whatsoever. Right? So you want to create infrastructure. If you want to create demand in that area, what's the first thing you should do? Mass urban transport frequency. You can't say that when the Abadi comes, then I will increase the train frequency. Right? That doesn't work. You have to first say, this is going to be an area where we're going to push affordable housing. So let's say for a small example, 50% of Mumbai today travels by the central line. Okay, or the number of travelers by train. And let's say we agree that till for example, Kalyan, the prices have become slightly unaffordable for the typical affordable housing customer, which is 6 lakh rupees per year and combined household income. We agree?
Yeah.
Okay. So now let's say you go beyond Kalyan, which is basically the Kalyan Kasara belt. Okay, or the Kalyan belt all the way to basically, Arjat. The train frequency is actually very poor, right? can't say that I have one train per hour and you go live over there. If he misses the train in the morning, he loses his job. And if he misses the train in the evening, he gets whipped by his family, right? Especially from other wives. So I said it publicly. So the point is that, you know, so what do? You lose both ways, right? So anywhere on earth, if you look at the other countries, I'm not taking BRICS as an example, but any country on earth that's a developing country with a sizable lower middle class population, infrastructure has come first, where affordable housing has been delivered. Take cases in Brazil, where entire cities have basically been built up in an affordable manner. China, for example, anywhere. Even if we take the UK, for example, where the train lines are basically have extended the reach of London to other parts of outside London, right? So it's comparatively affordable. So you have to realize that unless you increase the infrastructure first, affordable, you will simply, whatever scheme you put in, it simply won't create the demand or supply rather that will satisfy the demand.
Kirti, is there enough money in the system to fund all the developers who want to create affordable housing?
I'm glad you asked that. So there is a lot of money which is available, right? I mean, it's there. Every big company, every big institutional house worth its name has an affordable housing fund out there. You know, HDFC has one, NIF is supporting, ICICI Island, there is a lot of money available. If you look at the fund size itself, these are large funds, so they will necessarily have to make large investments. They can't be making SME style approaches. Here we're talking about affordable housing, where every house has to cost less than 30 lakhs so that it is available for low income homes, right? So if you assume a 1,000 house project, assuming 30 lakhs, what is the top line we're talking about? 300 crores. So how much funding does this project need? Usually not more than 10-20%, because if you're funding more than that, that means they won't be able to pay back your interest and things like that. They don't need more than 30-40 crores. 10 to 30 crores is the typical requirement of an affordable housing project. I don't think there are enough investors out there who are structured to lend to multiple developers or multiple projects and make multiple small investments. There are a lot of banks, a lot of NBFCs, private equity funds who will give you a 200-300 crore check. But are there enough investors who are willing to give a 10 crore check to a guy who's building 500 houses? Their top line is 150 crores? I don't think so.
So money is going to be an issue. We'll pick that up
Yeah.
as we go along. So Kirtan, when you do affordable housing, what are the kind of sizes that your projects have?
We are mainly into SRA schemes in Mumbai, as well as we are doing projects in Karjat area. In SRA schemes, the maximum sellable scheme, the flat sizes are 350 to 370 in this current market. Earlier we used to make bigger sizes house, but due to the recession in the market, the ticket sizes are only working out. So currently we are doing projects in Borivali side, which is the northern portion of the Mumbai, and surrounded by slums. Even we have started projects in Govandi area. So there the budget is the main constraint. So we are going with 325 car, and in this also we are giving a good size, 1 BHK with proper sizing also, room shaping. I am being an architect, I can design that thing with the interior layout also to cater the correct requirement of a family. So this is only the sizes which we are doing in the market currently.
So the two things that we have left unaddressed, one is the cost of land. Can we bring down that cost of land? And the second one is, can we actually have connectivity before the population struggles and then bring the connectivity? I'd like you guys, your perspectives on what does it take to bring down the cost of land. Places like Hyderabad, Bangalore, they created outer ring roads, opened up more land for development, cools down the prices, created connectivity. If you create connectivity on time, it works. Ramesh, what do you think we should do to cool down the price of land?
So many things. Actually, today when we ask developers why you're not doing affordable housing, which is low margin but high volume, their reaction is we are willing to, but can you guarantee that we won't have any surprises? When you're operating in such low margins, if suddenly a surprise comes with some change in government rules or some of the regulatory things which happened last year, then the entire project can go wrong and he could go bankrupt. Definitely, the government can do lots of things to make sure land becomes affordable. Infra is everyone has spoken about how we need to invest in infra. The government needs to allow bank funding for land. Till 2006, it was allowed, but post that the government stopped that. But that time there was a bubble in place. Today there is no bubble, so the government can. Thirdly, intervention on interest costs, which the government can do. Every time we speak about single window clearance, faster approvals, fast track approvals, the answer we hear is approvals is a state subject. If the government can take so much of efforts to between state and center to get the GST going, why can't they do something like that for real estate approvals? With giving carrot and stick, incentivize state governments who today there's so many, most of the states are ruled by BJP. Why can't the government use this as an opportunity to get in one act to make sure approvals happens on time, and you give incentives to people who do things and you disincentivize people who don't give approvals on time. Other than that, I think on the land side, to make it affordable, there's so much of government land today available that unlocking that land potential is a must. Everybody has spoken about how we can bring down taxes. But the good thing is, Jayashri, this government has actually done a lot of things which was previously not done, whether it's getting those tax breaks from any ATIB perspective, whether it's PMAY, which Sanjay spoke about, whether it's in terms of giving infra status to affordable housing. So the government has done enough, and I think it's at the right stage. If you can fix these 6, 7 points I said, like single window clearance, infra spending, the last mile connectivity, definitely things will, and no surprises for the developer. When you're operating at 10, 12, 8% margins, you can't give a surprise, and then the full project goes for a toss.
Actually, the last 2 years, I think, have had a lot of surprises. But this is once in a in 3 decades kind of
Not
changes.
just that surprises. When a project is going, there shouldn't be any interference that the developer has to kind of, because of which the developer gets the project delayed. So that's the kind of surprise I'm talking. Not just
You had NGT in Delhi, you had
those
land
things.
acquisition
Exactly.
in Noida.
Exactly.
Yeah.
That's there in every state has
Every
its
state
own different challenges. Bombay, the construction ban, which was there a couple of years back.
The
which is
dumping,
finally- dumping ground. That's what I meant. So
Yes. Clearly, if it's business uninterrupted, the developer seems to be willing and able to build affordable housing. The other thing that I thought was the legal cost of the land cost. You said that there are issues that you can address, but in a place like Mumbai, you've got Naina coming up, right? That's going to be a huge parcel of land. To make sure that Naina actually delivers its promise, what are the 4, 5 things that we should do so that that becomes one big chunk of development?
I think the Trans Harbour link is
Yeah.
definitely a great start. The government has moved fast with it. Tenders are getting close. Construction has started. They've identified the 2 agencies going to be doing it. Japanese funding. I think that's something which is definitely doable. I think what the government needs to do is you can incentivize developers on the tax aspect. We all know that close to 30% of the final product is taxes. It's a good thing that at least the GST that 8%, but that's one aspect. There are lots of other things on the taxation front which the government can do.
Policies are announced and sometimes don't go through to their logical conclusion. Let's take the infrastructure status for affordable housing. How many of you have actually benefited from that infrastructure status? Are you getting funds at cheaper costs?
As of now, none of the developers have got any benefit for declaring infrastructure status from the fund point of view.
Yeah.
We are continuously seeking representation to the government at the national level that whatever the benefits as an infrastructure point of view that clarification has to come to the financial institutions so
Yeah.
that and the benefit can be given to the developers.
So it's actually waiting for an RBI notification to the banks, if I'm not mistaken, right?
It should.
Or-
No, not really.
Okay.
Not really. See,
Go ahead, sir. Sorry.
not really. See, when we met RBI governor also, as per RBI, they are telling we are not putting any restrictions. But to be very honest,
Can we hear it? Can we hear it? Yeah.
to be very honest, what has happened is that in the past they have burnt their fingers, so they don't want to move further.
So the risk
See,
weightage is
today,
raised.
yeah, I will tell you, one PNB case, I think from last 3 months, I doubt because of margin there might be the loans must have been sanctioned or whatever it is procedure. Otherwise, in January and February, I doubt anybody has got their loan, even if it is approved. The disbursement was, they're telling, just give me this paper, give me that paper. Otherwise, earlier it used to happen that when you know, and that was also to a known customer. I am not talking about a new customer. New customer, though, for him. See, there is, you ask, is money available? Of course, there's plenty of money. Yeah, but the problem is that if money, it is not going to the right people because you have to have right connection. That connection is unfortunately it was not there because there is still, because RERA has just come up, the impact of RERA to come and settle down and bring back that confidence. It is just a year old and that also RERA is successful in Maharashtra. You talk about other states, there is not even beginning. I am very sorry.
Tamil
to tell
Nadu,
that.
they won't even
Yeah,
know what RERA
yeah.
is yet.
They've implemented. We have a
See.
project. They've
Yeah.
implemented finally. It's RERA approved and it's selling.
Okay.
Because they also
No,
digitize
now-
their
See,
registration.
I will tell you, in Maharashtra there are more than 20 lakhs which are registered. In entire country there may not be 20 lakhs. So, if you talk about, we have got 30 states. One state is doing so good. Other states are not even anywhere near passing mark also. I think probably Madhya Pradesh.
Madhya Pradesh is.
Yeah, they have done good.
Great job by the
Great.
Maharashtra state.
Yeah.
Yes. Actually,
Yes.
Maharashtra has become the beacon there.
So what I'm telling is the confidence, it should come back. It is coming back. And today I will tell you, the media people like you should go and tell the buyer that this is the right time to buy them. See, today buyer is what happened. He's still waiting. He's thinking that the prices might go down, but if further prices go down, then nobody will have, forget about affordable, nobody will have homes only. Because it is not possible,
Viable.
not feasible for any developer to do a business.
That's the question that I raised today. What I started with today is affordable housing with smaller margins. Let's assume 10-12% that Rajan Bhai was talking about. With this 10-12%, is affordable housing a viable business option, a commercial option for the private sector?
Yes, it's of course
See,
viable. It's of course viable, but what happens when Levere Ramesh told we don't want any surprises. See, the surprises are there in, I'll tell you, the neighboring city in Thana, we had 1 year closed down, practically almost a year because of water supply. See, practically there is ample water is there in Thane, but distribution system is not proper. Any Tom, Dick and very close to the court, files a PIL, immediately, the moment the PIL is filed, you check any developer's BP, his BP will be on the higher side. So there is no need, he doesn't do anything wrong. So the same way, even in Mumbai, today from last 2 years, even Supreme Court has given directive, but still, I still doubt there is no files are still moving. So what happens? We don't know. But tomorrow, we are sleeping tonight. We don't know tomorrow morning if the sun rise or not for developer. And sun is going to rise for on the planet, but for developer, he is still been sleeping on the dark. So that surprises should come down, and government should be very clear. Once we go ahead, we don't do any wrong things. I am not telling about mistakes. See, mistakes can be corrected. I am talking about wrong things, wrong intentions. If the person doesn't do wrong and if he doesn't have wrong intentions, then the government and the people and everybody should stand by. Today, I am telling you, we have an excellent authority as working authority who has come across and solved impossible problems. Impossible. Means that it might give you people are from Delhi, so probably he is doing 2-3 cases. If he is able to solve those cases, it can give a pathway for you also for NCR. Because there are so many projects.
So I
which
don't
are stopped.
represent only Delhi.
I'm just telling you. No, see, this RERA came basically from the point of MCI because of the
Absolutely.
problem. But we are very happy. We are supported, and especially in Maharashtra, MCHI, RERA as well as NEREDCO, both we have worked hand in hand. And I will tell you, you might be aware, we have also started conciliation cell. So conciliation cell. So today, whatever the confidence, there is a loss of confidence between buyer and the developer because buyer and developer they don't want to sit in front and front. So as a conciliator, what we do, we tell both of them sit in front and front. We tell, आपको जितनी गाली देनी है दे दो, आपको चिंता नहीं,
मेरे
हम
सामने
बैठे
देना।
हुए, नहीं हम बैठे हुए, ये कुछ नहीं करेगा, आप डरो मत. So what happened? And you will be surprised. Practically, the result is more than 85%. More than 85%. Suppose if you have got 50 cases, more than 45 cases are resolved, which is very, very important. Both sit across amicably, both come to a conclusion, and there is no compulsion, no force, no order pass. It is both the people come across, they sit and sign.
In fact, we've been telling a lot of people across the buyers across the NCR, don't run to the court in the first instance. Try and sit with your
So,
developer
right.
because in many cases, and in fact, we do a weekly show on Facebook called This Week in Property. 2 weeks ago, we had one instance where the buyers formed a group. They sat with the developer and said, "I'll put the money in. I'll give you the entire money. But I'll put it into an escrow account. You can't pay taxes, you can't pay salaries out of this. You can only use this for building, right?" And you so one tower, all the buyers put their money in, finished the tower, the receivables came in, the developer was able to start the second. Out of 22 towers, they are almost complete with 15, and the others are finishing. Clearly, conciliation is the way forward. And instead of going on a collision course, which doesn't help anybody, we've seen that with Amrapali, we've seen that with JP, we've seen that with Unitech. Getting a developer into jail is not your solution. It doesn't work anyways. While we talked about infrastructure, we talked about finance.
Can I just add on the infrastructure?
Yeah.
See, Ramesh was talking about banks, should start lending for land. I mean, I just hope that happens at some point of time. If they actually use this infrastructure status, they can lend for banks. When they lend for roads and bridges, it is land. They are lending for that.
Yeah.
So one.
We are not allowed as of now, right? As of now, they
So
are not.
because there is no
I
clarity
think-
in terms of what the infrastructure status means. Had they made it PSL, maybe they would have been more inclined to lend affordable housing projects. Today, all that means is banks can go issue bonds for infrastructure and use that money to lend affordable housing projects. I'm not aware of any bank that are really out there who've gone and issued because we don't know. None of the banks so far have that control.
So Sanjay, when it comes to project lending, you're talking about CLSS, that is retail lending. When it comes to project lending, help us understand what is the banker's thought process today.
See, we look at the most important for us is, of course, the credibility of the project. Okay? There are two things. At the end of it, we're looking at the project must be delivered. That's something is very important. We are not in the field of developing the project, but what we understand is that at the end of it, the builder at the margin is low or high because that's their cost is very critical for them. Project sales are most important. So when we are looking at appraising a project, two things we are looking at: the credibility of the developers in the past, what has been done, okay? And of course, what is the likely sales going to happen in the project. Nobody can guarantee the sales, but surely, right? And the biggest challenge today is the sales are slow. Okay, sales are slow for a number of reasons. I don't think cost is the issue only. I think uncertainty is one of the biggest reasons. As you said, uncertainty both in their part as well as customer. Customer is very,
Hasn't
very.
RERA addressed it marginally?
The RERA effect will come now, right? Okay, but still, because RERA is that they have to do it, but ultimately it has to come on the ground, right? Unless the projects start coming on the ground, so they are not very confident as it has happened in the north, mainly in the north, because the entire thing is happening. The projects are incomplete. Okay? So that's the biggest challenge on the behalf of customers. So we are doing it, and that is one of the business. The core business is retail, but yes, we are contributing nearly 15-20% on the developer side and across the country. Okay, we are even going to tier 3 and tier 4 because we feel the developers there also need money.
So you're funding projects in tier 3, tier 4 as
Absolutely, we
well.
are funding.
More than before, or it's more or less volumes are same?
No, we have been sustaining, and we are doing now more because people actually are going there. The prices are cheaper there because because they also need money. They may be smaller in size, but they also need money to do the project. Because initial sales are very important for them, but it doesn't happen in the beginning. Okay, RERA will make sure that 70% of the money comes to the account, but 70% will only come when there are sales happening. So they will need money to begin. We will need money about 30-40% of the project. We will need to execute the project. So we don't fund for the land because we are not allowed by our regulators. But we are definitely funding the project, and we have been doing consistently. And of course, we have fund. We are funding directly under Affordable Housing Fund, which we got it to IFC. And we are hopeful that these NHB guidelines will come soon on affordable housing, which they are working. When we've been talking to them, that they should be done faster, so that money, hopefully, because that's money going to be used only for the affordable housing project. We are not sure what rate, but hopefully that will bring down the cost.
And that is for project funding.
It is for project funding as of now. The guidelines are not here,
5,000
but
crores is a lot of money. If that money is infused into the market,
Yeah.
it should actually take the pressure off the market. But we're still waiting for it.
Yes, you are talking about RERA, did RERA help them?
Yeah.
See, RERA would have certainly helped to bring back the confidence in the buyer. Unfortunately, the GST came in the same time.
I was
So what happened?
Yeah.
What happened? Whatever advantage we thought of getting out of RERA, it was entirely wiped out because of GST. Because GST was a very huge. And see, when you talk about now, they have made it 8% available. So we convinced the housing minister, because it's a revenue for the government. Ultimately, they are thinking it comes from either from developer or consumer. They are talking about that you should bear up. See, whoever bears up, ultimately it is on the product. At the end, it is going to be on the product, whichever it is, whatever taxes are. We convinced them and we were successful in getting it to 8%, but still we are not happy. Because we are not happy because technically, I will tell you, majority places, the land prices are almost 50%. Where it is beyond 5,000, 6,000, weight is there. The land prices, land component becomes to 40 to 50%, wherein they give us abatement to everyone. So we are requesting them to give us, because it is not only land prices, land prices are there, premiums are there, developments are there. These all things accumulate more than 50%. And that was, if we talk about Mumbai and high-end products, there these things comes up to more than 70 to 75%. And in the era of service tax, we were allowed 70% abatement. So from 70%, they directly reduced it to 1/3. So we are
But you think input credit does not offset it?
no, not at all. Because input credit up to a price level of 4,500, it gets offset. Beyond that, once you go cross that, it is not going to.
But affordable housing is in the 4,500.
May I add one thing?
In the tier
Shouldn't
2
there
and
be?
tier
Yeah.
2 and 3 cities. No, see what happens if you say 4,500. Then what happens? Then the way Rohit told you can't consume your entire business. Then you can't build more houses. See, if you want, what you want. Important question is that you want more houses. If you want more houses, the developer has to go high rise. See, you are talking about Hyderabad. Hyderabad, why it was possible? Because they have opened up the area. They didn't have any restriction even for FSI. If you can afford, you construct higher FSI. So, but here it is not like that. Here there is development plan, and you know when the development plan comes, this government is not taking any interest in other very interest. Not what I mean. Let me be very honest.
Don't put ideas in
Let me be very. No. Here I will tell you, we have got excellence here. So far excellent. The person who is working really very hard to bring back the Maharashtra's position. He has worked tremendously hard. So he has cleared maximum development plans in his period. Otherwise, earlier, once the development plan goes to Mantralaya, it takes at least terms. I am not talking about here. It takes terms of the government. But here in his case, he has promised us this also, that Mumbai development plan also, it might be approved any moment.
So let me pick one more issue that we haven't talked about. We talked about the cost of marketing. More units means more marketing, right? But the marketing costs are, whether you market a 100 crore worth of house or a 30 lakh worth of house, the marketing effort is more or less similar. And here,
It's more.
It's
Even on a
more.
percentage wise, it's more in affordable.
Absolutely. So, in marketing, do we need to see innovations if we have to see this housing movement go forward? In many cases, what we find, and especially in the less than 15 lakh housing, we find that a lot of beneficiaries don't even know yet, and you're not able to reach. And if you reach and they even apply and don't get that house because it is an allotted house, after that they don't go into any database where they are addressed again and again saying that there's more housing in this sector. I think somewhere our marketing efforts have been faulty, which also contributes to the cost of your marketing. Do you agree?
But that's not applicable on the private project. It is only on the government project, PPP project, where you have to apply. Right?
If it is under the Pradhan Mantri Awas Yojana,
That's
those
PPP project.
the PPP
They
projects,
are just collecting data,
Yeah.
to be very honest. They are collecting data. So once they get entire data, it will be useful for the industry. See, today we are just building. We don't know. See, there are only a market scenario. People are telling me there are so many houses. There is demand for so many houses. But authentically, if you ask anyone, neither government nor anybody, because there is no actual that way authenticity, which will now come because at least people know how many houses are once all the states fulfill all RERA formalities, so automatically will come.
the
to know how
databases
many-
will be up there
yeah,
for everyone
and that
to
will be
see.
in the public domain and it's IT era, so we can immediately get it.
Couple of things, Jayashree. I think first the marketing and then the technology
Yeah,
part.
yeah.
On the marketing front, I think if a project is good and affordable, you don't need to spend too much. Customers will come automatically. We've seen it across the country. Just a couple of small changes the developers need to make. India has the highest amount of mobile penetration. So they've already touched 350 odd million people who have internet connectivity. And 70% of the Indians access internet through their mobiles.
Yes.
There are countries like US and all, it's still 30-40%. So I think thinking digital, thinking mobile is something affordable housing developers need to
Which
think.
is why I get by the minute how many houses I should buy.
Exactly. I think that's one. Second is on the technology part, which is I think where developers need to focus on two things, which is not yet in the country, but beginning to make a big wave in countries like China. One is the PPVC technology, which is prefabricated volumetric construction. That's something we are seeing a lot in China. And the second is 3D printing. Now, if you bring it to India, it's obviously going to be expensive, but we've seen it how Chinese mass manufactured solar cells and made it cheap. We saw it how the Prime Minister's initiatives to bring energy efficiency bulbs, which has made it cheaper. So the government can focus on those things. These are things where you can build projects in a month, 2 months, 3 months, 4 months. You can build a full projects. So those kind of technologies are coming across the world, and I think it's a matter of time before it comes with the right kind of government incentives to kind of get into massive large scale development of some of these PPVC and 3D printing technologies in the country.
So these become ancillary industries
Industries.
to the housing industry.
Industry.
This is
So-
what it means to say, if a project today, we take 2 to 3 years to complete.
Exactly.
The same project is
Yeah.
completed in a span of within a year. Your all other cost comes down.
20-30% straight cut.
Yeah.
But the issue that I figured when I was part of some of the consultations was that no one developer has that
Yes, that was
scale.
my point. I don't think there's anybody in India today. None of the developer produces more than 5,000 homes.
Exactly.
Yeah,
We have
very
Womex
true.
producing 50,000 homes. We have Truxa producing 20-30,000 homes. So economies of scale, technology, I guess, makes sense at that level.
However, if regionally or locationally you could aggregate demand, especially in the housing sector, if there were standard sizes and standardization, and the ancillary industries supply to multiple developers and not to any one developer, if you aggregate production at a locality level, that's where India can find a solution.
But I'm sure that's a good solution. I'm saying we are too early at that stage. Is that the problem I would like to solve today? At least personally, I don't think so. Because are you able to sell all those houses in 1 year? Let's say you launch a 500 house project. Are you able to sell it in 1 year? See, the developer is working on very small capital. He uses his construction linked capital. Are your affordable housing customers able all the money within 12 months. We have seen that they're not able to collect. They want to give, but he needs this time. So is building within 12 months, it varies again from product to product, right? If you're able to sell, excellent, construct. But if you're not able to sell, then you have to use technologies that are more efficient.
On prefabric volumetric construction, you need to understand also, your construction, if you're talking about aggregating demand and constructing offsite, your taxation will basically kill you. Because if you're constructing within your construction site, the taxation is zero. The moment you're constructing somewhere else and bringing it onto your site, even if Potar owns that plant, there's now tax. So that's the first point. That's why prefab hasn't really picked up, and neither has anything else, which is a consequence of that, an extension of that. Number two, we looked at prefab volumetric construction very seriously because Singapore's doing a lot of it.
Yeah.
See, the issue with this technology is actually the cranes. Each section weighs 20 tons, 30 tons, right? So the normal cranes that you basically have, that you use for example, aluminum shuttering, you can't use. You need very expensive cranes.
Yeah.
So then the question becomes, how do you finance these cranes and at what rate is the cranes financed? That's the whole other gamut. The third part is what ma'am said. If I'm actually building 8 houses in a day, see, one customer cycle is very important. If a customer is used to basically buying a house over a 2-year cycle, they basically they're currently living either on rent or with their parents, right? Or living in a chopra. Mumbai scenario or in Chol. They want that time to gather, to make savings, to basically continue paying rent wherever they are, and to migrate to a house. We tried, HDFC told us, Rohit, you're doing this all wrong. Please go and build finished houses, and your demand will actually surge and you'll get higher prices. We said, sir, you all are the HDFC, so we must follow your lead. HDFC is God. So we did that. Our demand fell 95%. 95%. So in affordable housing, in that 20 lakh rupee category in particular, which is where we are operating, when you construct a house and then sell it with an OC with no GST, your demand collapses because there's no time for that customer to basically pay 100% of the money, right? So all these factors are very important in saying 3D technology, and it's a customer's mindset. And Indian customers are very, because of what's happened in the past with houses collapsing and things of this nature, they're not okay with sudden change in tech. You tell them, for example, RCC ka construction hai, very happy. Now you tell them I'm making block work and selling you a house, they'll say, ye kya hai? Humko isme nahi kharidna hai. Even though it's perfectly, from a structural perspective, it may be better from a absorption of earthquake, but they're not interested in buying. So these are the factors also that basically play. So maybe you need a magic bricks with government of Maharashtra, India, and industry customer education forum to tell them that, listen, because you're in the digital space.
You see, what we're doing today, the reason why we called all of you is, this is a customer education initiative. We are live on Facebook. We have consumers logged in around the country. The one that we did in Delhi, we had 2.5 lakh consumers logged in and watching or watched the recording of the show.
Next time we can have a demo for a product here also. That's the audience.
That's it.
There's innovative marketing, you said.
And consumers actually are listening in, and they send us the queries, and we love it. We will share the queries that come in from our consumers with you, and you'll be able to
I
answer.
would request Sanjay sir to tell their chairman, tell people, because what happens, this is the right time to buy. See, even if I tell this is the right time to buy, people think as a developer I am telling it. But today the prices are below ready written prices.
Absolutely.
Below ready written prices. Because these prices won't come.
Ever.
Once see, the new constructions are not coming. You see in Myanmar, you will not see any from last at least 1.5 2 years. I hardly seen any Bhumi Pujan or new project launch. So once this is tied up, it is like a.
Then there will be that one period when you will have a complete dearth of new housing in the market.
So which is not good for the industry. See, probably it might be good for a developer who is holding the stock, but it's for very few people, or a financial institution, or a person who has funded the project. But it is not good for the industry. So the good for the industry is that the people should start buying it.
And I'll end with one thought, that while we are all talking about constructing for ownership, I think one thing that India has missed altogether is rental housing. A robust rental housing policy, so that you build, institutions own, and lease out. We need some tweaking in policies there. I believe the government has ready first draft of the rental housing policy, which should be out in maybe a month's time. But unless we have a robust rental housing policy, we are not going to be able to address this issue of can I build and can I sell? You may not be able to do that all the time, and you do need good rental housing policy.
Ma'am, with the rental housing policy also, REITs play a very important structure.
Yes, REITs play a
So
very
you can't look at one thing in isolation. It's the whole ecosystem that needs to be addressed.
And we don't have REITs. Whatever we have, whatever names we may give it to, we still have real estate mutual funds.
Well, teething problem in the REITs, and of course, Ramesh would explain well. But I think government intend to resolve that issue.
Yes.
It's taking its little more time.
It's taking more time than it should actually, because we've reached that crisis point in the real estate industry where the industry is feeling the stress, the consumer is feeling the stress, the government tried to relax by way of a few policies, but you need speed, and if you need speed, I think, Ramesh?
I think REITs are 2-3 months away is what I feel.
Yeah.
The first REIT in the country. If that happens, the second REIT will happen another 2 months later. So people have been preparing for quite a while.
Absolutely.
So hopefully
But it will start with commercial, right?
commercial. It'll start with commercial. So I think we are 2-3 months away. Finally, that wait is over, is what I feel.
Okay.
So you can see a lot of things which is showing, which is proof that it's going to happen.
See, yield for commercial is much more better. So that's the thing. So for residential, the yield on return is not that lucrative.
And our bank interests are better than globally. Therefore, the residential returns don't.
So I think rental housing policy should address some of these challenges as and when it's out.
I have a take on
Yeah.
rental housing. See, we were talking about very high cost of land. We're talking about government land being made available. I haven't seen a plan where government says take my land for 30 years, do rental housing on it, and give it back. See, because any time government starts auctioning land, it becomes a political issue. This government will give it to somebody of their favorite, next government will come and complain, and so on and so forth. But let's say, there's a lot of army land, there's a lot of railway land, there's a lot of PSU land, government land. We are not asking for the government to sell their land. Can you just give it to me for 30 years? Let me run it, let me make income out of it for you. Anyway, it's land doing nothing for you. Not only will it create house, I will share part of the rental income with you, and you take the land and house at the end of 30 years. I think that's a model we should consider.
Absolutely, that's a great suggestion. So thank you all of you for joining us. You're part of a conversation that we've started nationwide. We first take the big metros, Delhi, Mumbai, Bangalore, and then we take this conversation in different formats to the smaller cities as well. But somewhere we want all of you to be able to continue this conversation and hope that you will join us and keep it alive. Thank you for joining us. Thank you, consumers.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, Jay.
Thank you.
Sorry, Kuldeep wanted to close.
One of you. It was ended a great session. A lot of new ideas, suggestions came in from each of you, and we would be having another session in Bangalore as well, and we would be taking all your suggestions to the Ministry of Housing, and try to get that positive change in the affordable housing and make it a viable option for all the developers.
And
Thank
change
you.
is difficult, but we feel that if you keep on at it, it happens. I've seen things happening in the
Government is
market.
good.
Change is the
Change is a
permanent thing.
permanent
And
thing.
government is open to listen to the suggestions. So that's a very good part at
Yeah.
state level and at central level. So that continuous process and dialogue will really help for the benefit.
We are very fortunate. Both the places, yeah. To be very honest. This is the first ever time any government is listening to them. Listening at least, giving a ear to listen.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.